Many San Diego businesses, they were thrilled this week when they learned that they can reopen. Fox Eye legal analyst Wendy Patrick joining us live. Wendy, good morning, and a lot of people thrilled as well.
That's for sure, Shawley. Thank you. Good morning.
Legally, some businesses can reopen again. We've talked about those businesses. We know about the nail salons, hair salons, the restaurants. What are the businesses that cannot open?
Well, a lot of the businesses, Shelley, that cannot open, if you just think about it logically, are those where there's too high of a transmission of risk. Remember that what we've done is we've moved out of the black into the purple, not the red. The purple tier, of course, now that we're back in the tiered system, that's the most restrictive. So that is why we're returning to things like patio dining, just in time for the cold, the wind, and the rain, according to Chrissy's report.
Right.
But many of these businesses think, you know what, that's better than nothing. You'll recall we had the same conversation last summer when all of the fires were taking place, and we returned to patio dining then as well, and the air quality was so bad you couldn't go outside. So the question that many businesses are asking is, how do we, as you pointed out, how do we now move into the more lenient red tier to where we can invite more patrons inside, out of the cold, out of the wind, out of the rain, and still be able to be safe? The answer to that, momentum, depends on math. Remember, this is data-driven dining. The statistics are what gears whether or not we're able to move into a less restrictive tier. So if everybody does their part, they're masked, they're gloved, they're socially distanced, the theory goes we'll have more of a chance at moving to actually having those things open indoors to where it's easier for everybody to get back to work.
Okay, we know that what some of the problems that we're having, Wendy, from all the doctors and people who I interview, is that not everybody is on the same path. So there are restaurants who don't follow all the guidelines. They don't follow all the protocols, which is what puts us sometimes in these pickles. So the restaurants that are opening with the outdoor dining, if they do not follow what these protocols have been laid out, what will happen?
Well, remember, we've already seen a spate of cease and desist orders be issued. Nobody wants to do that, and nobody wants to see their fellow businesses and business owners being penalized. But many of the owners are basically saying, look, if we have to close down again, it'll be for good. Now we have a little bit, Shawley, of the opposite problem. All of these businesses that were surprised by the lifting of the orders, given that the statistics didn't really seem to bear that out, at least not initially before you look at the projections, they were pleased but not prepared. So what you're seeing now is businesses calling back so many scores of workers that they've just recently told, hey, we have no hours for you, we have no place for you, nothing is open. So people are really scrambling to get back into business. And this move, Shelley, if they don't comply correctly, not only do they face sanctions financially, but also sanctions countywide, as we won't be able to move forward into a less restrictive tier. So we all sort of rely on each other to do our part so we can reopen. We also, Shelley, want to make sure that we encourage each other to patronize some of these businesses. So collectively we can work together. Maybe you don't want to freeze on the patio. Maybe you do a pickup order. But we're all trying to keep each other employed.
Yeah, we've been trying to do a lot of that. I think I've eaten more takeout in the past few, like in the past year that I have in my life. But it's okay. I'm happy to help. Many businesses, Wendy, we've talked about it right here on our morning show. They have sued or they have threatened to sue the state over the reopenings. Where is all this coming from? And I mean, I know you can sue, but do they have grounds to do that?
Well, it depends. You know, there's so many different kind of lawsuits, Shelley, that have been filed. And some of them, as you mentioned, have been based on, I'll go back to the data. They've basically argued, well, there's been no COVID cases here. There isn't a risk. We're a sea of plexiglass. It would be almost impossible for anybody to contract it in our business. And then the counter argument that would be put forth by the county or the state would be, it's not about data showing you had an outbreak. It's about your risk at having one. So it's one of those things where sometimes that might be a battle of the experts in court, but your question is entirely relevant to what just happened this week, because you remember the reopening is based on the projections that show that in fact we will have more bed space available. Our infection rate will be lower. So the question now, Shelley, that we're keeping our eye on becomes, will this more contagion variant continue to really reduce those numbers in the right direction? Or if people get back out there, will the fact that it's 50 or whatever percent more contagious, will that drive the numbers back up?
Yeah.
We are hoping for the best, but still preparing for the worst in terms of the fact that we are remaining cautious, sanitized, plexiglass, distanced. So we're going to keep our guard up, but we're going to go back out.
I wanted to ask you about that. If you thought that the end of the stay-at-home order is a prediction of what is to come, that we're headed in the right direction. And then as soon as we want to ask you that question, here come the news headlines that, that we got variants and we could be seeing the biggest surge and wave of the coronavirus in the coming months. Wendy, no,
That's
no.
right. Let me add another variable in there, Shali. The fact that many people are still not willing to take the vaccine. They are waiting to see how most of the population does. They're looking at the different vaccines available. The side effects are being publicized. People are immunocompromised or they have underlying health issues. So when you put that into the mix, it's great to hear about the mass rollout of the vaccine. But remember, Shali, not everybody's going to take it. And there's no guarantee that even if you're vaccinated, you can't touch one surface, walk over, touch another, and transmit the virus from one place to another. So it's a mix of science and it's a mix of financial considerations. Remember, the governor said, look, this isn't politics, it's science, but there's always science that's involved in these legal restrictions.
Right.
So we have to keep our eye on the confluence of all those variables, Shali. My prediction is you and I will be talking about this again. We're not done.
I hope we don't. Wendy, thank you. Oh, we're all so tired. We're all so tired, Wendy. Thank you.